So you're starting a new D&D campaign and you need to figure out what to play. The only thing is, your devious dungeon master has promised a brutal campaign with plenty of character deaths. If you want to survive to reach level 20 and collect all that loot while basically becoming demigods across Faerun, you need to bring your A game, and that starts with coming up with the best possible party composition that you and your friends can think of. That's so stupid. Well, good news, adventurers, because that's exactly what this video will help you with today, is I'll give you the 3 absolute best, not subjective at all, and perfect D&D 5e party compositions for your next game. Oh, and while these Dungeons and Dragons parties here are set around a 4-player plus DM setup, I'll even include a bonus 5th pick if you happen to have more friends than I do to play with. All right, so let's get started with a few just quick questions about things that every truly balanced party should have. First and foremost, let's start at the front line. Who is going to be the tank? Who can sit at the front and take a hit or 2 or 3 from, say, a large stone giant? These classes often include barbarians, paladins, shield fighters, and wild-shaping druids. Who can step up to off-tank if needed? Again, we have the traditional tanks just mentioned, but also don't underestimate the dexterity-heavy classes that can just avoid getting hit altogether, like monks, rogues, 2-weapon fighting rangers, and even some exotic sorcerer builds with abuse of the shield spell. We're going to need healers for the party, right? And certainly we need to look at party buffers and debuffers. When it comes to damage, we need to be able to spit AoE damage. So looking at wizards, sorcerers, druids, or even lore bards. Then we need to look at who can throw huge burst damage to big single scary targets like rogues or paladins. And finally, we need to look at our options to be able to deal consistent ranged damage with classes like warlocks, wizards, rangers, valor bards, and more. We need to evaluate which classes can help control the battlefield when things get hairy with spells like Web or Hypnotic Pattern or Confusion. We also need at least some ability for our party to be able to sneak. So looking at bards, rogues, monks, and rangers, or even possibly druids. And finally, we need a good party face that can lie their ass off, charm, and persuade anyone they need to. Whew. That's a lot of different shoes to fill, but don't worry. All right, I've got 3 amazing party compositions that will absolutely dominate your next D&D campaign. The first just about broken party composition I have for you here today, I am affectionately dubbing the Holy Avengers, though a more accurate description might be the CYA Avengers. Leading off this party is none other than the Oath of the Redemption Paladin. This choice begins to cover a lot of our bases for our party, as the Paladin will serve as the party's face, tank. It can off-heal and help with burst damage with smites and rebuke the violent. Additionally, it helps cover partially this party's biggest weakness, fireball dex saves with Aura of the Guardian, and also it will gain the ability to counterspell at level 9, which is a little later in the game than we want, but still easily one of the most powerful spells in all of D&D 5e. Moving on to our flex role, we have the Circle of the Moon Druid. Easily one of the most overpowered classes in all of the game. And this character will serve as our off-tank if needed, a stealthy salamander to scout ahead. It can throw fireballs from a great distance to help take down ranged or even possibly flying targets. And oh yeah, they get to cast Healing Word, Hold Person, Pass Without Trace, and Ice Storm. So healing, stealth, battlefield control, or AoE damage. And for a nice little bonus at higher levels, Scrying, which is a very powerful ability in those epic level campaigns. The one big drawback is that we get no spells while we're wild shape, but the point is that they can start a fight as a caster if they need to and move closer to relieve the paladin in that off-tank role if the tank is about to go down. So they're really, honestly, the perfect flex character. Spot number 3 goes to the War Domain Cleric. Heavy armor, martial weapons, bonus attacks from War Priest, Spirit Guardians, which is an absolute bomb. And it's a class that can scrap from the back with Searing Flame, which calls for a dex save instead of an attack roll to balance against the druid's firebolts, while simultaneously it can hold on to that banishment spell with concentration, or it can move forward and help scrap with the paladin and druid in a choke point if it is needed to. And of course, it continues our theme of being able to Healing Word when and if someone goes down, and it can throw War God's Blessing to help the paladin land those smites easier. Plus, It completes our trio of forcing enemies to go through a paladin that can heal, a druid that can heal, and even wild shape for more HP, and now another high AC resilient target that can heal, and it can do it while holding up a spirit guardian spell as well, wiping out a wave of mobs in a few turns if they can't break that cleric's concentration. Rounding out our Holy Avengers is yet another in-theme choice to button up a few weak spots with the Divine Soul Sorcerer. The Divine Soul Sorcerer is the perfect complement to the rest of the party here, as it will bring yet more healing, making this party one of the hardest to kill with anything, except perhaps a Dragon's Breath attack that frankly would have to take down the entire party in well turn, and that would wipe any party out potentially if that did in fact happen. But it also has just enough spell choices to allow it to take on the role of the primary healer, freeing up the rest of the party to focus their magic on dealing out damage quickly and efficiently. Additionally, just in case that Dragon's Breath is a risk for wiping the entire party, you have Favored by the Gods ability to help you make that save for half damage, healing up the rest of your party on your next turn. AoE damage from Fireball and better concentration checks for haste or hold monster. Plus, we get to check the box of having Counterspell in the party by level 5 at the earliest level even possible. This covers all the bases we could possibly need, and this might be the hardest party to kill off without landing one perfect big AoE that hits every single party member and drops all of them at one time. Really, the biggest weakness for this party is simply dexterity saves. However, most things that throw Fireball can be counterspelled or are from Flaming Skulls or Demi-Liches, both very soft targets for a Paladin, or just straight up NPC casters, again, which prove often pretty squishy enough. So, let's see here. Party Face, burst damage, top tier intra-party healing, tanking abilities, battlefield control, AoE damage, stealth with those druid wild shapes, and pass without trace for those other heavy armor users. Cleric party buffs, and 3 of the 4 classes here can easily move to cover range damage against a flying target. This party is what you would call an absolute unit, and they would have no issues rolling right down into the Underdark or kicking in the door of an Assassin's Guild if they needed to. And as for our bonus 5th party member, if available for your party, the perfect complement here is an easy one with Way of Mercy Monk. What do we need to round out this party? 1, a character that will move the percentage of group stealth checks into our favor now to 60%. 2, a character that can move far and fast and have plenty of mobility in combat if needed. 3, a character that can survive a dex save and then heal at least one other party member. And 4, a character that when not stealthing or bouncing around dodging and healing, will spend the majority of their time stunning opponents and dealing out damage. This also allows either our cleric or druid to move back a bit and spend more time on offensive spells. The perfect 5th party member for our perfect D&D 5e party. Next up, we have a group that I am dubbing Wild Child. This group fits very well into the out of the wilderness exploration thematically, but don't kid yourself, okay? They can take on city sewers or heavy spy-based campaigns just as easy. For our frontline tank, we are starting with the hardy Totem of the Bear Barbarian. Totem of the Bear might not be the most exciting choice, but mechanically, it is hard to compete with for the tank role just for Totem Spirit alone. And if you make it to 14th level, Totemic Attunement will help put a serious hamper on anything that isn't casting spells against the party. Not only will this lock up that tank role we need, but it also knocks out single target damage for our party, even though it doesn't quite burst as well as the Paladin does. However, just because the Totem of the Bear is an excellent choice here, our alternative is Ancestral Garden and Zealot, which both make decent, though admittedly squishier choices. After that, we have the Circle of the Moon Druid. Yes, just like in our Holy Avengers group, we have the return of the Moon Druid. And for all pretty much the same reasons. Filling our off tank out, our steady damage frontline, our off healer, stealth, and even battlefield control role with arguably, it's just the most flexible class and subclass really in all of D&D 5e. However, if your party wants to focus more on damage, a decent alternative here is Circle of the Spores Druid, as they can help whittle away HP and they pick up Symbiotic Entity for some temporary hit points when they do need to flex into an off tank. But for our 3rd spot, we're going to do something a little funky, but solid and perfect for this group by selecting a second druid for the party in the form of the Circle of Dreams druid. This character will fill out our primary healer spot very nicely as they pick up a bomb ability at just level 2 with Balm of the Summer Court. Healing in 5e is more effective as a bonus action. And because of how death and dying mechanics work, when you can bonus action heal, healing word, at a range, you make it very hard for your DM to end up killing a PC. But because we can still cast Healing Word and also get Balm of the Summer Court, that makes for one incredibly efficient primary healer. And of course, we can double up Wild Shape for infiltration missions now, or even double Polymorph with our 2 druids, double Wild Shape to sneak the entire group under door as crickets for an ambush. And because Balm is not a spell, it doesn't prevent you from casting Plant Growth to slow incoming enemies and heal up the Barbarian from range in the same turn with an action and bonus action. So our primary healer also has plenty of opportunity to chip in offensively or even as a buffer or debuffer or with just flat out battlefield control. The flexibility in that alone is spectacular as a member of this group. Okay, so the 4th member rounding out our group is none other than the Hunter Ranger. I know, right? I know, but hear me out, because it's about finding that right perfect fit more than it is just about, going with the wizard here. The Ranger's job here is to do nothing more than absolutely mow down enemies from a distance with arrows and have just the right amount of flexibility to move to the front line if needed. After that, we're going to abuse Goodberry on long dungeon delves by casting it with as many slots as we possibly can late at night on the night before with the intention of consuming them before the 24-hour window is up. And of course, if the party drops from a large AoE trap, we have a great dexterity-based character that can cast Cure Wounds in order to recover if needed, and they will typically be farther away from the party because they are in fact a ranged character. For the techniques, these are the 4 abilities we want. Colossus Slayer at level 3, Multi-Attack Defense at level 7, Volley at level 11, and finally Evasion at level 15. Preferably, we'd like to have this character focus on simple +1, +2, or +3 longbows if they can. And of course, choosing a playable race with Dark Vision is always going to help here. But if your DM lets you take the Aarakocra, I said that right, which they probably shouldn't. Yeah, a flying sniper is going to be absolutely solid in this party. And unlike the wizard or sorcerer, we're not here to worry about saving throws or concentration checks. We want to support our barbarian by helping to melt down targets in a tag team as fast as possible. This party has very few weaknesses, and the ability to double polymorph, double wild shape alone will make very few areas in your entire campaign game world unreachable unless your DM specifically designs areas to tech against that. And yes, you cannot cast spells in wild shape forms, but you can maintain concentration after you have cast a spell. However, the biggest areas of weaknesses are twofold. Area of affected damage, but again, that's damage, not AoE battlefield control, which is still excellent, and a party face. And honestly, even though this is a video for the best group compositions, I don't know, I kind of like the fact that the wild bunch here of non-city folk has a small hiccup of deceiving and persuading those city people. If a party is going to have a flaw, buying into that theme and making it highly thematic is only going to make for more roleplay fun and make the game more believable. But for that bonus 5th party member, however, we need none other than the Mastermind Rogue, who rounds out this group to make it the perfect D&D 5e party. Here's what it brings to the table. A party face, evasion at level 7, it can handle traps and any needed deception with Master of Intrigue, and it will help tremendously with burst damage on big single targets with both sneak attack and its ability Master of Tactics. The way to utilize them in combat is to wield a dagger in the offhand to double our chance to proc that sneak attack. However, whenever we land our first hit and get sneak attack there, we can ignore our bonus action 2-weapon fighting option and instead help our Colossus Slayer Ranger at a distance of 30 feet for 1d10 plus 1d8 plus Hunter's Mark, or even our Barbarian in the middle of a rage. Another fantastic, top-notch party that is hard to kill, has plenty of damage and flexibility, can get into any room that they want in the world, and can dominate any Dungeons & Dragons campaign your Dungeon Master puts in front of you. Finally, the third perfectly balanced party I'm calling the Dungeon Delvers, because this group is perfectly equipped to take on any ancient tomb or dungeon that Mad Mage can dream up. Starting off our party, we are once again going with the Paladin, though this time we want to pick up the Oath of the Ancients Paladin. Admittedly, all right, the channeled divinities from Oath of the Ancients aren't particularly dazzling in any way, but what we are really after here is Misty Step at 5th level so that we can get to our allies quickly with Lay on Hands and the incredibly powerful aura of Warding. As with our previous Paladin, this character will also serve as our primary tank, help with burst damage from Smite, and serve as an emergency healer, not to mention the party face. If we want to manage to make it to level 15 in this campaign, Undying Sentinel is one of those abilities that can just flat out prevent a TPK for the entire party from like a big dragon's breath attack. Following our Paladin is none other than the Valor Bard, my favorite class. The Valor Bard is arguably one of the most undervalued classes in all of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but we specifically need a dex build here, which gives us incredible, and I'll say it again, flexibility. While we won't get the rogues or monks evasion, all right, we will pick up extra attack, and more importantly, both off-healing capabilities with Healing Word and the ever-dominant Counter Spell. Whether we want to fight closer to the front line for a secondary threat with rapiers or more often from a safe distance with a bow, we are going to be effective every single round of combat. Combat Inspiration will also allow us to protect our fighter with our bonus action while simultaneously continuing to be an offensive threat ourselves. And we can even use our Get Out of Jail Free card with a timely polymorph that can be used defensively on a low health ally in longer drawn out fights. Then there's Hold Person and Hold Monster that can be used to lock up opponents while we continue to rain down arrows behind the safety of our tank. It's basically all about doing something every single turn, whatever may be needed to win. Healing, damage, control, countering spells, or more likely 2 or even 3 of those things in just one turn. But admittedly, the Valor Bard isn't the greatest off-tank for our flex spot, so to best complement our Paladin and Bard, we're going to go back to the classic Light Domain Cleric. This class is the perfect complement to our flexible Valor Bard because we're going to pick up heavy armor, which will allow us to move up to the front lines if needed without fear of leaving the party vulnerable with our Bard as a healing backup. And Paladin, of course, as well with Lay on Hands not too far away either. Additionally, what's better than out-healing incoming damage to ourselves? Preventing it in the first place with the incredible Warding Flare ability, which doesn't slow down our offensive action economy as it uses our reaction instead. Also, guys, it gives the party the chance to switch positions in longer drawn-out combats to spread out that enemy damage. If the Bard is getting walloped too close to the front lines and the Paladin, then the Cleric can move forward, allowing our Bard to drop back and now snipe with that bow and extra attack. And if the Cleric needs a reprieve, well, then we can do the exact opposite with our Bard. Additionally, this Cleric also gives us double coverage for our 4th team member, which I will get to here in just a moment, as we can also dish out just a good old-fashioned fireball when that moment is right. Front line, back line, high perception, healing, AoE damage with a high AC that can off-tank. Very flexible and hard to deal with for any monster. Speaking of our 4th team member, we have the School of the Divination Wizard. To be candid, almost any wizard would be excellent here. But the reason we want the Divination Wizard is because we are going to absolutely use and abuse Portent and then eventually Greater Portent. Our wizard in this party is going to be focused on battlefield control, counterspell, buffing when the right situation pops up with haste, and then lastly, damage, right? We're going to use our Portent to ensure the right saving throw is either made by our fellow party members, and then sometimes that the right saving throw is missed for our Bard's Hold Person or Hold Monster. We're going to also be used as the party's basically huge support system. Non-combat mage when needed in the campaign for things like Sending, Lehman's Tiny Hut, Detect Magic, and possibly Invisibility or Fly. And of course, having a second caster access polymorph to prevent the 2 heavy armor wearers from giving away every single mission that it happens to be stealth is also another incredible asset to have. This is a great party that leans into the more classic roles, but also doubles up and triples up for the most important things that gets party members killed. Enemy spellcasters, we have 2 counterspellers. And conversely, we have 2 party members that can just fireball to open up a fight as well if that is called for. We have 3 members that can heal, 2 members that can support the tank or back up and be just as effective in the back lines. Great reactions and bardic inspiration uses that can save party members from successfully getting hit at all. And finally, the triple backup we have is a portent wizard that can turn a 20 into a 1 or a 1 into an 18 whenever needed. Party face check, all the important skills covered except for one small area of weakness. This party isn't particularly stealthy, okay? Though double polymorph, like mentioned earlier, can cover a lot of that weakness here, but there's really no classes that have access to pass without trace, unless perhaps the Valor Bard takes it at level 10, but to be honest, that slot should 100% go to Swift Quiver instead. There are a few classes we could look at for our bonus 5th team member here in our perfectly balanced D&D party, but what we really want and need here is the Battle Master Fighter. This class covers the last few weak spots we have by shoring up our front line, doubling up our burst to tag team with the Paladin Smite on our own action surge. We also get incredible maneuver that feels like it was just designed for this party in particular with bait and switch. So whether the fighter needs to slide out of the way for the Paladin or rush to the aid of the Cleric in a second hallway, swapping places for someone in the brink of dropping in for a fresh fighter or doing the same for the Bard. This ability, guys, is almost the definition of synergy for this party in particular, making it the perfect companion with all the other things a fighter traditionally brings to an adventuring group. Damage, high hit points, and flexibility with weapon choices, and really even builds. Even if you wanted to make this fighter a dex build with medium armor instead of heavy, and bows and rapiers instead of this big old greatsword wielding brute, or a second heavy armor tank using a sword and board, whatever you want to build this fighter, there's a lot of flexibility here, and you could really do it any way you want to. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it over to you guys in the community, and I have a couple of questions. The first question that I'm dying to know is, which party here is your favorite? Which party here on paper looks like it would be the absolute best? And do you have a party composition that you think is better than what I came up with? Because I don't know. I'm looking at these parties and every single one of them looks like they could be the perfect D&D party. Very, very few weakness. I'm really, really happy with all 3 of these. I have a favorite that I won't say on video, but maybe I'll sneak down into the comments. So let me know what I missed. Let me know what you hate. Let me know what you love. Let me know what your favorite party is in the comments section down below. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I would love to have you subscribe. I put out videos on DM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more stuff just like this for fun. And if that sounds like something you might be interested in, subscribe button down below and come join us. I want to give a massive shout out and thank you to all my incredible patrons over at welcomeadventures.com. Guys, it is because of you that I get to keep doing this. I love you guys so much. The support is overwhelming. Thank you. If you like what I do here and you want to support more content like this, or maybe even snag some rewards for yourself, welcomeadventures.com is an easy way to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys. Man, I'm hot. Oh, next time. I'll catch you guys next time.